Hi everyone. Please subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate it. Thank you. In recent videos, you've heard me talk about the problematic nature of the Jupiter cycle for the current president. I mean, no question that Jupiter in Cancer is way more problematic than when it was in Gemini, when it was actually helping him quite a bit. It's because of the 12th house and the different angles that it's making, etc. But I think the ERIS cycle, which I've also mentioned, is even more problematic, mostly because it just hangs around a lot longer. And Jupiter, after all, will go through there year by year per sign. It's there until the summer of 26, then it moves into Leo, which is somewhat better, by which time it will have done a lot of damage though. ERIS, however, moves at a glacially slow pace. It has an orbit of around 550 years, and it happens to be in a zone of that elliptical orbit where it's moving super slow, so it's not 1/12 of 550, it's much less than that. So ERIS has been in Aries since the 1920s and remains in this sign until 2050 plus. It'll then catch up in later signs. The point is, it moves really slow. In fact, in his chart, you see it at 6+ degrees at birth, and all this time, he's 79 years old, and it's only moved to 25+ degrees. The problem is, that's where his Venus is in Cancer in the 12th house. So in other words, ERIS is squaring it. And this planet was discovered in 2005, is the most directly responsible for the demotion of Pluto in the astronomical model. And as always seems to happen, astronomers who by and large tend to reject astrology, nevertheless, synchronistically always get it right in picking names that reflect exactly what the planet is. This happened with Pluto in 1930, and now it happened again. And I mean, it's not that this is exactly true, of course, but if I want to have a bit of a laugh, I'll say, comedically, they made a big mistake by choosing a warrioress. And indeed, an angry warrioress. The myth of ERIS represents an angry goddess that feels like she has been left off the table. She's been denied something, and she's seeking to redress the issue. And you start to see themes of those that have been left behind, women most explicitly as a gender, but it encompasses more realms. Like, for example, in our culture, I think this applies a great deal to people of color, people of different sexuality, and indeed, since 2005, there have been major gains in those areas. The different laws that have been passed, etc. It's pretty clear. And this is the kind of thing that is like an unstoppable force. Once the planet becomes part of human consciousness, that's where it takes the outcome, the situation. It moves forward in that way, even if not always directly and immediately. That's the pull. It's unstoppable. Now, if you look at it in his chart, it's in the 9th house, 9th sign order from the ascendant. And so there you get legal matters, international affairs, questions of immigration, because of the fact that it's an international matter, different countries, etc. And also the overarching principle of what ERIS is. And if you think about why this guy so early in his life was involved in beauty pageants and competitions, it's that ERIS placed in the ninth. Another quality of ERIS that we have to mention is that it tends to connote intense competition, because in fact in the myth she starts a fight, which was a competitive game between three different goddesses that are competing over the affection of or the approval, affection, etc. of a male figure. And so pageants fit perfectly with the nature of ERIS, and definitely ERIS on the downside associates the cutthroat competition and just a cutthroat approach to everything. And so this is again what this guy is always doing. It's the scorched earth approach to playing and winning and competing. But everything in a way is like fire. You can use it, but you have to be careful because you might get burnt. And when you look at this current scandal, again, it fits perfectly with the nature of ERIS in that, first of all, it's directly related to the exploitation of women, young women, but they then fall into that category of, again, disadvantaged, left behind, that needs to be redressed. And here it is, right? He's faced with it because he was involved in it in the past. And the problem is, because of its very, very slow motion, now it's right on top of his Venus position. And what is worse is that when a person reaches 72 years of age, there's a correction that happens. So then when you're 36, which is half that, it would be a smaller correction. Namely, at 72 it's a full degree, at 36 it's half a degree. It becomes more noticeable as we age that transits of planets have a bit of a lag, meaning you see them precisely on the degrees and already you feel the effect, because it's definitely close enough to the fact that in reality 72 years after birth, it takes an extra degree to get to where it was in space back at the moment of birth. So because of that, you see his Venus at 25 3/4. You really have to look at 26 3/4 plus on the other side another degree, which means he's not going to be clear of this ERIS cycle to his Venus until close to 28 degrees at least. I'm going a degree and a bit beyond the position of the precessed Venus. And by the way, even if I didn't do that, it's still close enough by orb, definitely into the next couple of years. But once you make that correction, you're looking at the next decade. Now, all of this, of course, presumes that he gets to the next decade. He gets anywhere, to next week or next month for separate reasons, because there are, as you've heard me say, lots of health angles and so forth. But if he does, this is nothing but trouble. It's a huge, huge problem, because aside from the direct issue that we're seeing right now, which is so related to the question of the exploitation of women as a gender and their seeking of retribution, then there's the fact that it's in the legal house. And this is where all the, for instance, judges that have so frequently denied him appear, and planet is signaling this isn't going to end. It's going to continue, as we move forward. In fact, if you think about this guy's fate, what has happened to him, you would say that women, in a sense, he's exploited women, he attacks women, he disrespects women, but they're his constant problem. For example, if you only counted women, which of course isn't true, but the numbers tell you, if you only counted women in the voting, he doesn't win 2016 or 2020 or 2024. It's not possible. Women are, in fact, what drive the democratic vote. If only men were voting, it would be very difficult to keep people like this out of power. And so it's a perpetual issue for him. They're definitely his enemy overall, because I know you can reply, but there are so many women that also help him, support him. Yes, but in the totality, they're a problem. And once you have this planet so close in transit the way it is, it can only get worse, it can only amplify, and you know that in July of every year, the 20th or the third week is when the station is, but you're looking at a minimum, absolute minimum, a week before and a week after. That's when it's super intense. But really, a couple of weeks on either side, you're looking at about a month when it's the worst possible situation. And the same thing happens in January. It pretty much takes care of the whole month that way. And this will continue to persist year after year, now especially when there's a topic to link the fact that past karma in that realm is now coming home to roost. And you also know that separately, Saturn is moving in that direction, where it'll get to those degrees in 2027. That is extremely bad. Now you've got a planet of accountability, a planet that is also seeking retribution in a different way, getting together with ERIS. It's absolutely disastrous. And to my mind, yes, of course, the Epstein thing related to women, that's what's happening now, but that's the legal realm writ large. That does not bode well for all his initiatives related to lawsuits, related to getting favors from judges, related to winning in that realm. Even if, yes, he's getting some victories, but the pattern would suggest that as time passes, the opposite is going to happen. And again, don't forget that this is, you're laying out the map, assuming the person can get there, and they may not. That's just how it is. The astrology simply gives you the perspective of the panorama that can unfold, provided you get to that point. It's not like you can say definitively, well, this is what will absolutely end the person. You can point to a zone of power around that. This is the zone. He's in it. But honestly, I don't know how he gets out. And that's the bottom line on it.